Good morning and welcome to Small Business Matters, where we talk about all things small business. And of course, we're going to get to know the entrepreneurs that make these businesses go and grow. As always, we thank Miami's Community News for this platform. And today we have a guest from Profit Inc. And welcome. We have Thomas Avila from PuroClean. How's it going, Thomas?
Doing great, Carlos. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So I think you may be the first franchisee that we have on the show. But before we talk about that, as I always like to say, people do business with people, not with businesses. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Were you born in Miami or in Florida? Where were you born and where'd you go to school? All that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so I was actually born in Florida. I was born in Lakeland when 1-year-old parents moved down to South Florida.
Did somebody work for Publix? Or?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much all I knew most of my life, about Lakeland because, like I said, it was only 1-year-old when we moved down to South Florida. And it was funny how life turned around because later on when I had my corporate job, I had to go back to Lakeland for an office that we had located there, and I learned more about it then. But I grew up in South Florida, in Plantation area, Boca, and then later did my MBA and everything at UM in international business. My dad was from Argentina originally, and my mom American from Tennessee, so good mix like a lot of us here in Miami. And yeah. And I was raised speaking Spanish and the whole culture of Argentina and, doing the asados and the whole thing. So in college, quite frankly, I had a lot of Latin friends too when I went to Emory in Atlanta. And they would ask me where I was from, and I would tell them I was Argentinian because I just didn't want to go through the whole thing about, I was born here and this and that and whatever. So it was just easier to tell, especially the Latin folks that because, I was actually speaking Spanish before English, like, again, a lot of us, I think, here in Miami. So, yeah. So
did your mom speak Spanish? Did she learn how to speak Spanish?
She did. My dad did not know a lick of English when he came over, and, he still struggled through it throughout, like many Argentinians throughout the years here. And he, they met in Atlanta. He did his residency at Crawford Long, affiliated with Emory.
He was a physician?
Yeah, doctor. My mom a nurse. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he tracked her down in a library and sent her a note to check off yes or no to go out with him. She checked no, and he still showed up at her dorm and convinced the nun to, let her go out with him. And that's how it all started.
That's a great story. So you graduated from Emory, then came to UM to get your MBA in international business.
Yes. And
what was your dream back then? What did you want to do?
Yeah, because I guess of my multiculturalism and the language and just my interest in international business in general. Miami had a nice international business program at the time. It was a dual master's, and they required you to work in another country, so I thought that was kind of cool to get some work experience there too. So I worked in Chile for Gillette, the Gillette company there, and so my dream was really, let's apply business internationally and work at it that way. And then eventually I managed Latin America for a U.S. company based out of Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what happened after that? When did you get the bug, as we say, to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of us, when we're doing the corporate world, we get pulled a lot of different ways, and not necessarily, especially when you're traveling a lot internationally like I was, I felt like, my daughters were growing, and I wanted to participate more in their lives and do something here locally and something positive for the community, be able to coach the soccer teams and all that good stuff, so, and the track and everything. So I said, let me just do something on my own, something that will keep me grounded here more, and I could be able to have a positive impact and go from there. And yeah, it was kind of weird when my wife is from Uruguay, so we were there for New Year's and the holidays, and I got a call from a lady that she turned out to be a business coach. So I was talking with her some, and she said, you know what, I think you would be a good business owner with your background and hear a few ideas, and that's when we came across this one, the restoration.
So I have to ask that you mentioned your wife is from Uruguay, who I know, of course, but I've never asked you this question. What is it like when Argentina plays Uruguay in your house?
It's definitely a house divided, but we always support each other's teams regardless, and of course Argentina's always been my number one, and Uruguay will always be hers. But even when the U.S. is playing, we root for them, and when either one of our teams play someone else, we root for their team. So that's that's part of it. But yeah, it can get a little intense, especially if my in-laws are around. So
yeah, I get that.
But no,
I get it.
We appreciate it. Good soccer, no matter who it is. So yeah.
Okay, so your business coach says you should maybe consider a few ideas. So in the world of, why did you decide going the franchise route versus starting something from scratch?
So this was going to be something completely new for me, completely out of the realm of anything I had really dealt with before. The corporate environment I was in, and so I started back out in technical sales for this company. It was an instrumentation company.
Okay.
And then I was thrown a few ideas about different businesses, and this was restoration, something I really didn't have much of an idea about. So the good thing about the franchise is that they offer training. So I had to get trained as an owner. I had to get trained as a full technician right off the bat. The first 2 weeks, there's some pretty intense training. They have training facility right here in Broward County.
Okay.
And we get certified. Basically, we get all the tools that you would need, and of course the equipment and everything right off the bat. And as soon as we get out of there, we graduate from what they call new franchise training, and we get certified. We're pretty much at the top notch in the industry, because there are so many restoration companies out there that have no certifications or haven't gotten to that level. So it's a pretty neat situation to have that type of education and training right off the bat.
Okay. So I want to back up for a minute, because, I mean, you could have opened a food franchise. There's a zillion franchises. Mm-hmm. Why this? What drove you to choose PuroClean? Yeah,
I mean, that's a good question, because the business coach, that was one of the things. I like to cook, for example, as you can probably tell by my mention of the asados and whatever, but I also like to just cook in general. And to me, that would have been a neat thing to go after. I mean, back when I was getting my my master's, I did wait tables, I bartended, I went to bartending school and everything. So to me, it would have been a natural progression. And I told her that, because there were some concepts like that in the bar restaurant industry, what have you. And she said, yeah, but that's what you actually like to do, and like in your downtime and everything. I don't think that's something that you would be necessarily happy doing full time and working at, and I think she was right.
Interesting.
That perspective.
Yeah.
And something that I've always thought of with that is, wow, and yeah, and I know I have good friends that have been in that industry, and it's a tough one. You have to be around for the holidays. There's a lot of things. Not that what I'm in now is necessarily easy in that respect,
right?
But it's a given that those are the times that you would need to be there. So she mentioned this one, restoration, and to me, I thought it was just sounded to me like construction. So it was one of the first ones she said, and I had just kind of discarded at the time. And then later we circled back around. She's like, no, but just so you understand, this is what it's about. And she explained a little bit more. And then I started looking more into it and doing my own research, and then, of course, visiting them and seeing what it was all about. And it became very attractive.
And when did your business start?
So it started in 2017.
Okay.
So it's been about 8 years. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned that PuroClean is top-notch. Mm-hmm. What makes it top-notch? You mentioned certifications, but what else makes PuroClean the standard? Yeah,
so PuroClean is, first of all, it's countrywide. It's actually international. They're in Canada. They're in Puerto Rico now. A lot of the executives came from, you've probably heard of some of the big names, like ServPro and so on. And so they came from those companies, and that kind of piqued my interest as well. So I was wondering, okay, what makes them different? And yeah, it is all the training they have involved, the relationships, the idea that we could also work together. So as a franchise, if I have something that I can't handle on my own, I can call others, or they can call me, and we can work together. We mobilize for storm events, for example. The other top-notch thing I would suggest is that we're not limited in where we can work. So even though I'm technically PuroClean of Coral Gables, my local area would be here, South Miami, Key Biscayne, et cetera.
That's very different for a franchise.
Right.
Usually you've got a territory.
Exactly. I can pick up and go to the west coast of Florida.
As you have?
Wherever. Yeah. I've worked in Texas. I've worked in North Carolina. I've gone to many other places. So there's a lot of advantages, I would say. And also they have a program where you have to meet different levels. And I'm happy to say I'm at the max, which is the gold level, what they call CPR. So it's a certification where we can take on jobs that PuroClean has relationships with. So big insurance carriers or large property managers or commercial companies, So there's a lot of dynamics. And then, of course, the training, you can just always, they have online everything for us. I mean, if we want to just keep on learning, we can go on. And I just came back from a regional event in Orlando, and they have also a national convention or international convention, I should say, every year too. And so there's a lot of support, I would say, and a lot of learning involved constantly. So it's not like, someone just on their own and just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So I know that this is a highly competitive space now. I don't know if it was when you started, but just a quick story. I had a small fire at my house. No big deal. No damage was done. But there was a lot of smoke, so I called the fire department. And within minutes, I had at least 5 companies come and knock on my door. I said, wow, these are the new ambulance chasers.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. I was shocked.
Yeah. That's interesting, because that's one of the things I learned when I came in as well, especially here in this market. It is very competitive, and you do have what you're talking about, folks who are ambulance chasers. Personally, I don't do that, but everyone can choose their specialization, their routes, how they like to work, I do fire jobs, but it's typically from somebody that either knows of us, word of mouth, or that has been assigned to us as well, maybe from PuroClean or something of that nature. And definitely those are great jobs to do, but I don't believe in that ambulance chasing strategy, because I think it just it just puts off a different vibe. We're here to help people, and I mean, if we love to help people as much as we can, but we're not going to be that aggressive and chase people down like that.
So you mentioned jobs that were assigned to you. Do those come from the corporate office? What did you mean by that?
Yeah, exactly. So if there is, in these programs that we're talking about, where they have these relationships with different carriers or property managers, different partners, they could be assigned to us because of the area that we service normally.
Got it.
And because of the certification, as I was talking about. So if we meet all those criteria, they could certainly send work our way from that avenue.
That's a great benefit of being a franchisee.
Exactly. Yeah, that, the other thing would be, like you mentioned, when we mobilize too. When we go to storm events, we let them know, and they also prep us and say, listen, we know that there's going to be a lot of need in these areas, and the local franchises really need your help. So we go in, and again, they would assign jobs for us in those situations too.
Okay. Tell me what PuroClean does exactly. What are the services you offer?
Yeah, so everything that you typically see for a restoration company, I think you'll normally see on the billboards or the trucks or what have you, the water, fire, mold, biohazard. So what that really means is the very basic and the most common, I would say, is the water and the mold. So the water events, when, say, there's a pipe break of some sort, say a refrigerator, water line breaks, a lot of these things, a flood from any of these events. It could be from a dishwasher, it could be from a lot of things, or flooding from the storm events, of course, as well. But a lot of times these things happen when people aren't home. So unfortunately, they come back and they find that their house has been flooded by, something like this. Mm-hmm. And so that would be the most common, I would say, event that we're called for, and the other would be mold. So people are concerned about their indoor air quality. So we are licensed, and this is something that I did outside of PuroClean, really, is licensed to do mold assessments. So the testing, and of course, in the state of Florida, you need a license to do this, as well as the remediation. Mm-hmm. There's many states that you don't need these licenses in, but Florida is one of those where you do. So we have those licenses as well, and that's a lot of what I do. People will ask me, okay, do I have an issue here? Do I have mold? I have some water damage. How bad is it? That type of thing.
Okay.
And then, of course, everything else, the fire, the biohazard, and biohazard can be all kinds of things.
Right.
It can be the hoarding. It can be, COVID was one of those things that came about that we did a lot of business in as well, just the regular disinfections and that type of thing that falls under biohazard too. And then, of course, bodily fluids, from what have you.
You ever do any crime scene stuff, or is that?
I've done some of those as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going back to mold, is it safer? Would I be crazy to say that every home in South Florida has mold to a certain extent?
No, you're not crazy.
Okay.
So, of course, there is what's considered a normal level of mold. So just by opening the door to the outside, you're going to have mold creep into your house,
Right.
So the idea is to have, what's considered normal levels indoors. Once you have something that's not normally indoors, or you have elevated conditions, then that's when you have to be a little concerned. And that's something that really, started to interest me. So I became a member of a NORMI, for example, National Organization of Remediators and Mold Inspectors. And then I took different courses for the sensitized, and we know a lot more about mold and how it affects people now than we used to.
Yep.
So they estimated, back when I took the course, originally about 7 years ago or so, they estimated about 20% of the population is predisposed with that gene, that they're sensitized or susceptible to mold. Now they're saying 25%. So, they're finding out more and more as time goes along. Yeah. And it, of course, affects mostly the older folks and the younger, but there's people, like my wife and my oldest daughter, they're more sensitive and everything, and myself and my youngest really are not. So it really depends a lot of times on the person, but regardless, we want to make sure our clients have safe environments.
So you go into a home, how do you inspect for mold, and what steps do you take to remediate it?
Yeah, so the inspection portion of it, depending on how bad it is, so if there's anything that warrants testing, of course, that can always be done.
Can you sense it right off the bat when you walk into a home? If it's bad, if mold is bad?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have that musty smell, musty odors, that type of thing, you can really sense that, especially if you're sensitive to it.
Right.
And I have customers who, like I said, I personally am not that sensitive to it, but when they tell me that they smell something, I take their word for it.
Okay.
And then usually that means, okay, we do need to do some testing here to figure out what we have going on. So that could involve, air testing, surface testing, and then we get the lab results back and then see how to handle it from there on. As far as remediating, it just depends on the level, how bad it is. It could be that there's nothing really of concern if there's not a whole lot of growth, and it's not, maybe it could be a sanitization, or it can be a full-out remediation, which would be material removal, and then of course the whole sanitization process and everything.
So what is the sanitization process?
So the sanitization process is getting the air quality back to normal, and also cleaning the complete environment inside.
Okay.
So that's very detailed cleaning. That's HEPA vacuuming. That's air filtration, HEPA air filtration. It's antimicrobial application. There's a lot of steps involved in what's considered just sanitization. And during material removal, if that needs to take place, then a lot of this is going on in tandem as well.
Okay.
So, and there's different methods. Different people, remediators, have their preferences of what products to use and
Right.
And how to do things.
Bleach being one of them, or no?
No, we do not recommend bleach. That's a good way to clean hard surfaces,
Right,
but it's not something you want to just put on drywall, for example. 'Cause
Right.
we always say that'll cover it up,
Yeah.
and it'll give you the false sense that it's
Right,
gone.
right.
But you're really feeding it on the back end there.
Got it.
So yeah, so we like to stay ahead of the curve too, and find different ways that we can do the sanitization at a lower cost. For example, so that it's not so complicated and takes so long for our clients to be out of the house. So
What are some of the I don't even know what adjective to use, but the wildest situations, or the craziest, or the most severe situations you've seen out there?
yeah, I mean, I'd have to say those are definitely storm events.
Okay.
So when I deployed, pretty much right off the bat, I would say it was my second year into it, to North Carolina. That was pretty bad because
Hurricane?
Yes, that was Hurricane Florence, and
Okay.
it was bad because the power had been knocked out. So these were houses that, first of all, the construction was different than down here. So down here we have the Miami-Dade norms, and
Right.
there it was trailers. It was all wood type construction, and it's very affected. Without power for several weeks, there were places that we walked into that, I mean, it was just mold everywhere, just from top to bottom as you saw it. So we had to completely take everything out and just leave this.
Got everything?
Pretty much gut it and leave the structure sanitized and ready for build back. So those were some pretty crazy situations, because before you even do that, of course, you need to get all the contents out of there. And
Right.
it was at the point where the owners would just tell us, listen, just try to save this and that, but throw everything else out. So it was, those are pretty extreme. So we were just getting rid of everything, and it's just, what we really don't like to do, because we like to mitigate. That's the whole purpose behind PuroClean. We
Right.
want to keep it from getting to that point.
Right.
And
Unavoidable in that case.
yeah. So those were the extreme cases for sure.
How about the west coast of Florida? I'm sure you saw some stuff there.
Yes. Last year after Milton and
Ian before that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we've had our share throughout the years. So yeah, the thing is, a lot of those were flood related, and the problem with the flood waters is the contamination. So with that type of water, unfortunately, the material needs to be removed. So when you have a regular pipe break, from a clean water source, the idea is to mitigate, and that's what we're really trying to focus on, to keep things from getting worse and to salvage everything that we can.
Right.
When there's flood water like that, we need to basically gut everything again, up until the point, of course, that it was affected, and sanitize it and to keep it from getting to moldy conditions. So, and again, taking all the contents out, and yeah, I mean, there were places where yeah, it was just piled up so high, the stuff that we had put outside the house that you couldn't see the house from the street level, just because of the amount of stuff that we had to take out. And I remember one house on the West Coast over there where unfortunately an older lady was living in there, and her son had to break through a back window to be able to get her out because the doors weren't opening, everything that had fallen in front, the trees and so on, and the floodwaters and everything. So but at the same time, they're the most rewarding jobs because people really do appreciate you and want you in those times. In those times, it's difficult for them to find companies that will respond, on a timely basis because there's just so much demand. And so it is rewarding to do those jobs as well. It's tiring for us, of course. We're,
you're away from home too.
Having to find, places where to put everyone up, the crew and the whole thing. And so it's not easy, but at the same time, it's definitely, I would say anyways, the most rewarding jobs that we've had.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Thomas, I know we've been streaming the phone number, but I want them to hear from you. If they run into one of these issues, who should they call?
Well, definitely call us at PuroClean. So we're, PuroClean of Coral Gables. And, the phone number, as you have it up there, the 305-894-4343. And, you could certainly get us through our website as well and just send us a message through there. But we're happy to help out with anything. Like I always tell my customers, hopefully you don't need me, but
yeah, exactly.
But I'm straightforward and honest, and I will tell you if you really need something to be done or not. So we take an ethical approach that way, and we won't sell anyone on any service that they really don't need.
Excellent.
So.
Thomas, thanks so much for being here, and thank you for being here today, and we'll catch you on the next Small Business Matters.